I was just a nobody, another face in the crowd. But with just $10,000 I brought the book's biggest, most unhinged villainess home with me. All because she was now a paraplegic, her legs completely useless. Destined for death, she was instead brought home by me and forced to become my homemaker. Her eyes dark with obsession, she picked up a chef's knife and smirked. "Hey, little fishy, guess what I'm doing to you today? Should I steam you or panzer you with scallions? You get to pick." Later, when the story's main hero and heroine showed up at our door, she was scowling as she washed a fat cat I had just brought home. "All you do all day is bring home strays. And in the end, I'm the one who has to take care of them. What are you two here for? Since you're here, don't just stand around. Go do my husband's laundry." As my shift was ending, a loud argument suddenly erupted from one of the patient rooms. This sort of thing was all too common at the hospital in Chicago. I even had my usual calming speech ready for the family. But before I could even open my mouth after entering the room, a wheelchair was shoved hard into me, nearly knocking me over. I hadn't even regained my balance when a shrill voice cut through the air. "Whoever wants this can have her because I'm sure as hell not paying her medical bills. If you have to, just wheel her outside and let her die." The woman in the wheelchair kept her head down, showing no reaction to the cruel words. If it weren't for the slight rise and fall of her chest, I would have thought she was already dead. The head nurse stood by looking helpless, trying to plate the shouting woman, only to receive a death glare for her efforts. Then she shoved past all of us and spat viciously at the silent woman in the wheelchair. If I were you, I'd have killed myself already instead of being a burden to everyone. The woman took the spit to her face without flinching, as still and silent as a statue. I quickly pulled out a tissue, stepped forward to carefully clean the filth from her hair, and took the chance to get a clear look at her face. She was a beautiful woman with skin so pale it was almost translucent, now shrouded in a veil of gloom that gave her a unique, haunting beauty. I was so captivated by her beauty that I just stared for a moment, then finally turned, blushing, to ask the head nurse, "What's her story?" The head nurse sighed wearily. "Car accident, nerve damage. She's paralyzed from the waist down and no one's looking after her. She owes almost $10,000 in medical bills and her aunt refuses to pay. Our hands are tied." I looked at the woman in the wheelchair, an idea forming in my mind. I pulled out my phone, checked my bank balance, and made a decision. I turned to her aunt. "You don't want her, right? In that case, I'll take her." The head nurse was shocked. "Ethan, you can't be serious." I just grinned. "It's fine. I've got enough." He looked at me, his eyes filled with disapproval. "Ethan, there are so many patients in the world. You can't pay the bills for all of them. You just graduated. You need to take care of yourself first." The woman in the wheelchair stirred at his words. I just gave a confident toss of my head. "Don't worry, man. I know what I'm doing. Just this one." Her aunt heard me and snorted. Never seen anyone so eager to take in a. "If you want to be a saint, be my guest. Just take her and never bother me again." With that, she turned and stormed off, practically running away before I could change my mind and hand the burden back to her. Looking at the woman in the wheelchair, I couldn't help but feel a wave of emotion. For the 20-odd years since I'd been reborn into the world of this book, I had lived diligently as a background character, carefully avoiding any plot points involving the hero and heroine. And yet here I was, having just picked up the story's main villain, the once untouchable, prideful queen of the Vance family, now brought home by me for a mere $10,000. When we got back to my small apartment, she still wouldn't speak to me. The only sound was my own one-sided conversation. "What's your name? How old are you? Are you hungry? I can make you something to eat." She didn't answer, just stared down at her own lifeless legs without moving. Seeing this, I had no choice but to step forward and gently lift her chin. Looking into her dull, clouded eyes and asking, enunciating every word I said, "Are you hungry?" She seemed shocked that I would do that. Her pupils trembled slightly. After a moment she finally answered, "Chloe, 27. Her voice was raspy, like a rusted gear, as if she hadn't spoken in ages. It took me a second to realize she was answering my earlier questions, but she still hadn't told me what she wanted to eat. "Okay, Chloe, if you're not going to tell me, I'll just make something I like. By the way, my name is Ethan. I'm 2 years younger than you. I used last night's leftovers to whip up a big pan of fried rice, dished it into 2 bowls, and offered one to her. Chloe didn't even lift a finger, just turned her head away. She wouldn't take it, so I just held it there. I don't know how much time passed, but my hand was shaking so badly I could barely hold the bowl when she finally reached out, took it, and set it on the table, but she still wouldn't eat. Just sat there silently with her head down. I was starting to get angry, too. Who are you trying to spite? Are you a child? Fine, you don't want to eat. Then I won't eat either. We can starve together. She snapped her head up, shot me a quick glance, and then looked down again. In that one look, I saw confusion, shock, and surprise, but not a shred of trust. Meant what I said. I dragged my exhausted body, sore from 2 days of overtime, and sat with her deep into the night. Just as my stomach started to churn with acid, the statue before me finally moved. She licked her chapped lips and spoke in that same hoarse voice. "Can you get me a glass of water?" I stood up, my body swaying unsteadily for a second. Once I was stable, I shook my head clear and looked down at her. "If you drink this water, you have to eat your food. Understand?" She gave an almost imperceptible nod. Only then did I go boil some water and brought it to her with a straw. After she finished the water, she slowly began to eat the greasy cold fried rice. She kept glancing at me as she ate, and when she saw I wasn't eating, she actually stopped. Right then, she didn't look like a ruthless villainess, but more like an insecure, homeless kitten that had just been taken in. I sighed, took her bowl, dumped the rice back in the pan, threw in some shredded pork, and stir-fried it for a minute before giving it back to her. "There, eat up." "I'm eating, too." Chloe held her bowl, and carefully pushed half of the pork from her rice into my bowl. When I looked up, she quickly lowered her head, pretending nothing had happened. This woman was so difficult. When it was time for bed, I moved to help her change and lift her onto the bed. It was nothing for me. I did this for all my patients with mobility issues, but she clung to the armrests of her wheelchair, her face bright red, refusing to let me touch her. "Get out. Just get out. I can do it myself." I just stood there with my arms crossed, not moving, just watching her. She looked like she was about to combust under my gaze. After a long moment, she looked up, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Her voice pleading, "Please just go outside. I've always had a weakness for puppy dog eyes." I sighed, turned, and closed the door. From inside, I heard harsh scraping sounds and the rustle of fabric. Then there was a heavy thud, the unmistakable sound of a body hitting the floor. Before my hand could even touch the doorknob, her voice came from inside, choked with tears. "Don't come in. Let me do it myself." Hearing that, I had to back away from the door. But I listened intently to every sound from within. After what felt like an eternity, she finally called out in a strained voice, "Okay, you can come in now." The moment I opened the door, I saw the chaos. Clothes were strewn everywhere, and the wheelchair was tipped over on its side. Chloe was curled into a ball on my small bed, her bare back covered in a sheen of cold sweat, trembling uncontrollably. Didn't say a word. I just walked over, pulled the covers over her, and then turned to tidy up the room. "What do you want to eat tomorrow? I can pick up groceries on my way home." She didn't answer, and I didn't press her. Every newly disabled patient goes through this. She needed time to accept her new reality, to get used to the idea of needing help. I understood what she was going through, but I also knew this wasn't a novel. Real life doesn't give you endless time to be fragile. I give her 3 more days, tops. After that, she had to start pulling herself together one way or another. After cleaning up the mess, I spent the night on the floor. I woke up late the next morning. Thank God it was my day off, or I would have been in deep trouble. There was a blanket over me that hadn't been there before. Chloe must have put it there. She was still in the same position as last night. I calmly rolled her over. She was all skin and bones from not eating properly and being sick for so long. I lifted her easily, ignoring her struggles as I carried her to the bathroom. Are you going to do this yourself, or do you want my help? She stared at the toilet, her face burning red and the veins on her hands standing out, unable to speak. I didn't let up, looking her straight in the eye and repeating the question. Yourself or me? Finally, in a voice as quiet as a whisper, she said, You help me. I can't do it alone. I didn't wait for her to finish, just pulled down her pants. Squeezed her eyes shut in humiliation as a single tear escaped and traced a path down her temple, but she didn't say a word. We got through the morning without any incident. Chloe was still withdrawn, but she was at least starting to ask for help when she needed it. The thing that worried me most was her self-destructive streak. More than once, I caught her secretly holding a small knife to her own throat, only to be interrupted by me just as she seemed to gather her resolve. I kept finding the knife no matter how she hid it. The last time it fell out of a pile of laundry. I calmly tossed the knife in the trash. And that's when Chloe finally broke. Don't I even have the right to die anymore? Veins stood out on her neck as she screamed, her voice cracking with anguish until she was just leaning weakly in her chair, gasping for air. Seeing her like that, my heart softened for a moment, but I quickly hardened it again. Chloe, I paid $10,000 for your life. You don't have the right to throw it away. Suicide, self-harm, giving up. Besides things that only hurt the people who care about you and make your enemies happy, what else is there? She closed her eyes and forced the words through her teeth. I don't have anyone who cares. Am I not? I saved your life, didn't I? She fell silent, letting tears stream down her face without a sound. Why did you save me? What am I to you? I didn't answer her directly. Instead, I just started talking. I'm an orphan, the kind whose entire family is gone. I grew up relying on the kindness of strangers. In middle school, I got sick. It wasn't anything serious, but the medicine cost a lot. I only had $20 to my name. Not nearly enough, and there was no one to help me. My voice was calm, as if I were telling someone else's story. All I could do was curl up in my bed and pray I wouldn't die. And I promised myself then that if I made it, if I ever met someone in the same hopeless situation, I would save them. I wouldn't let them suffer that same despair, just waiting to die. As I said this, I knelt down and gently rested my head on her unfeeling lap. My voice was barely a whisper. So please, for my sake, just try to live. Chloe didn't say anything, but her hand unconsciously tightened its grip on my sleeve. After that day, she never tried to kill herself again. I had to work during the day, which meant Chloe was left alone at home. I had to prepare her meals, set up a bedpan for her, and meticulously hide every knife in the apartment before I could leave for my shift. After work, it was another round of cooking, laundry, and helping her wash up. Most nights, I was so exhausted, I'd fall asleep the moment my head hit the pillow. Chloe was still as quiet as ever, but she started helping out with small things she could manage from her chair. Then one day, I came home from work and didn't see her in the living room. Chloe, Chloe, I called her name, searching all the way to the bedroom. But she was nowhere to be seen. Panic set in, and in my rush, I tripped over my own feet and went down hard. The noise must have alerted her because she came wheeling out of the kitchen in a hurry, smelling of cooking oil and holding a spatula. What happened? Are you okay? I used her legs to push myself up from the floor, brushing myself off. I was calling for you and you didn't answer. I got worried. She looked at me with a hint of exasperation, a flicker of life in her eyes. I was in the kitchen. The exhaust fan was so loud I didn't hear you. Oh, seeing I was okay, Chloe wheeled herself back to the kitchen. Dinner's almost ready. By the way, can you hang up the laundry? Can't reach the drying rack. Yeah, okay. I ate dinner with a strange mix of emotions. It was the first time Chloe had ever cooked for me. The woman across from me said nonchalantly, her expression unreadable, "I'll do the cooking from now on. You should rest when you get home from work." I nodded. It wasn't until I was standing at the sink washing dishes that it hit me. She had said at home, Chloe was starting to see me as family, a major victory for Ethan Hayes. The next morning, I got up early to buy groceries before she woke up. "Chloe, I'm craving barbecue ribs." For the first time, she looked a little embarrassed. "I don't know how to make them." Seeing my chance, I grinned and handed her a smartphone. "Then look up a recipe. I got you a SIM card and I also added my contact on iMessage. So just call if you need anything." She took it, murmuring, "Okay." Just as I was about to leave, she suddenly called out, "Hey, remember to pick up some soy sauce on your way home. We're almost out." Got it. Got it. From that day on, Chloe's daily thoughts shifted from how to kill herself to what to cook for dinner and what soup to make the next day. Our iMessage history became a constant stream of her asking what I wanted to eat and reminding me not to forget to buy meat. I watched as she transformed from a dark, brooding villainess into a domestic housewife. But the healthy color returning to her cheeks told me that at the very least she wasn't unhappy with her new life. Over dinner that night, while sipping the soup she'd made, I asked casually, "Have you ever thought about trying to walk again? A senior colleague of mine is a top-tier physical therapist. She's coming to Chicago soon. Maybe you could." Before I could finish, she slammed her fork down, her face cold. "I'm finished." I was left speechless, watching her angrily wheel herself away. I followed her into the bedroom and stopped her chair. "Your injury is still recent," I pleaded. "If you work hard, there's a chance you could walk again. Can't we just try?" She looked at me, her eyes welling up with tears, and a bitter smile twisted her lips. "So, you're tired of me being a two? You want to get rid of me now? Is that it?" I was stunned. I had no idea how she twisted my words into that. "That's not what I meant." "It's exactly what you meant. You think I'm useless. If that's how you feel, why didn't you just let me die back then?" Seeing her lash out like this, my own expression hardened. "Chloe, do you have any idea what you're saying?" She didn't answer, just glared at me defiantly, letting the tears stream down her face. We were at a stalemate for a long time, and suddenly I just felt tired. If that's what you want to believe, there's nothing I can do. I'm human, too, and I'm exhausted after a long shift. I'm going to bed. And just like that, we started giving each other the silent treatment. Life went on as usual. I went to work. She cooked the meals. We just stopped speaking to each other. Sometimes we'd go 3 days without saying a single word. The little bit of weight Chloe had managed to gain melted away. Again. She started staring at knives again. At night, she'd wake up from nightmares, thrashing and silent. We had never talked about her past, and with her shutting me out, I was powerless. I was already exhausted from my job, and coming home to her stony silence was infuriating, but I had no one to vent to. A loud crash followed by the sound of shattering porcelain was too loud for me to ignore. I rushed into the bedroom to find Chloe on the floor, her face a mask of pain. Shattered plates and bowls lay around her, and a shard of ceramic had cut her cheek. My head started to throb. As I helped her up, she suddenly threw her arms around me and held on tight. Chloe clung to me with all her strength, pinning me in place. "What is this?" Weren't you just giving me the silent treatment? My tone was harsh, but Chloe's eyes filled with tears. For a master villain, she sure could cry a lot. She leaned against me, her voice softening. Don't leave me. I'll be good. When did I ever say I was going to leave you? She didn't answer. Just buried her face deeper into my neck. You know, you're all I have. It was true. We only had each other. An orphan reborn into a world not my own. And a disabled villainess cast out by everyone she knew. In this world, who else could we possibly rely on? At that thought, my stone-cold heart melted. I patted her on the back as we both tumbled onto the bed. It's okay. I'm not leaving you. She nodded meekly and fell asleep in my arms. Her grip so tight, I couldn't have pried her off if I tried. For someone so thin, she was surprisingly strong. After we cleared the air, her mood improved dramatically. Her eyes dark with obsession. She picked up a chef's knife and smirked. Hey, little fishy, guess what I'm doing to you today? Should I steam you or panzer you with scallions? You get to pick. I put on a high-pitched voice from the sidelines. Ooh, I want to be pan-seared with scallions. It would be delicious with a side of fish tacos. Chloe looked up at me with a long-suffering sigh and brought the knife down, cleanly chopping off the fish's head. In the original story, the dark villainous Chloe had killed the hero's mother. After her accident, she was supposed to be used as a human shield by the hero, dying to atone for her crimes. But now here she was, wearing an apron and staring coldly at the meat I'd brought home. This isn't even fresh, you know that? I rubbed my nose sheepishly. I got held up at work. Chloe sneered. Held up at work, or was that stray cat just too cute to leave alone? You saw that? Oh, did you go outside? She didn't say a word. Just produced a pair of binoculars I'd bought years ago and pointed them out the window, which had a perfect view of my walk home. My guilty smile widened. She gave a cold smirk and announced, You can forget about having barbecue ribs for the rest of the week. I immediately started whining dramatically. No, please, Chloe. You're the best. Don't make me break up with my beloved ribs. She shot me a cold look, huffed, and then brought out a plate of sweet and sour pork. Okay, I can break up with barbecue ribs. Sweet and sour pork, will you marry me? My mood shifted on a dime. Chloe watched me with an amused expression, her once dead eyes now sparkling with life. By the window, the little plant I'd brought home had quietly sprouted a new leaf, swaying gently in the breeze. Felt like life itself. A torrential downpour started just as I was getting off my night shift. I stood at the hospital entrance, staring worriedly at the sheets of rain. I couldn't get a cab, and there was no way I could ride my scooter home in this. Just as I was debating making a run for it, a car horn beeped. I looked up to see one of the doctors from my department waving at me from her car. She yelled, Ethan, get in. I'll give you a ride. Thanks. I threw my bag over my head and dashed through the rain, and she pulled me into the passenger seat. Man, this rain is insane. I don't know how I would have gotten home without you. No problem. We're colleagues. When we got to my building, I invited her up for a bit. We were laughing and talking as we walked up the stairs. But before I could even get my keys out, the apartment door swung open. Chloe was standing there, her face etched with worry. But the moment she saw my colleague beside me, her expression turned to ice. She blocked the doorway, her voice dangerously low. Who is she? My colleague just smiled and scratched her head, holding out a hand. Hi, I'm one of Ethan's coworkers. My name is I. Wasn't asking you. Her sudden outburst startled both me and my colleague. What's wrong with you? If she hadn't given me a ride, I'd be completely soaked right now. Hearing me defend her, the fury seemed to drain out of Chloe in an instant, leaving her looking deflated. She gave me one long, deep look, her shoulders slumping before turning her wheelchair around and disappearing into the bedroom. I could have sworn I saw the glint of tears in her eyes. My colleague gave a wry smile. Ethan, I think she might have gotten the wrong idea. I stared after her with a complicated feeling in my chest, then mumbled an apology to my colleague and saw her out. I went back inside quietly, only to find the bedroom door was locked. Chloe, what's wrong? Open the door. There was complete silence from the other side, as if the room was empty. I kept knocking patiently, but eventually I started to feel frustrated myself. Chloe, I'm hungry. The words were barely out of my mouth when the lock clicked and the door opened. Chloe wheeled past me into the kitchen without a word, her head down. She came back with a steaming bowl of ribs and set a place for me at the table. After doing all that, she just went over to the window and stared at the little plant. Aren't you going to eat? She didn't say anything. Felt like we were right back where we started the day I first brought her home. Me talking non-stop into the silence and her lost in her own world. Am I really that useless? I had talked myself when she finally spoke. Her voice quiet. It was as if she wasn't even talking to me, just thinking out loud. I frowned at her, confused. Why would you say that? You're amazing. You're a great cook. You keep the laundry clean, and this apartment is always spotless. She gave a bitter laugh and looked up at me. Ethan, I can't pick you up when it's pouring rain. I can't even bring you an umbrella. All I can do is sit here and pray that you're safe. All I can do is try not to be a burden. When I saw someone bringing you home, I should have been happy that you didn't have to walk in the rain. But instead, I was just so angry, so frustrated. Why am I so powerless? I can't do anything for you, Ethan. I hate being this useless. If I could, I would keep you all to myself. Make it so you only ever see me, only ever need me. Not like this, not as a who can only cook and do laundry. Half her face was lost in shadow. Her expression unreadable. Sudden flash of lightning illuminated her features. Her face was pale and severe, her eyes burning with a possessive madness. It was in that moment I finally understood why the author of the novel had described her as dangerously obsessive. I had been treating her like a stray kitten, forgetting she was actually a tiger. Just one with broken legs, and a tiger is always a tiger. In the suffocating silence, she wheeled herself over to me and seized my hand. Ethan, can you still accept me like this? Every dark description of her from the novel suddenly became real. She stared at me without blinking, like a predator eyeing its prey. Her stare sent a chill down my spine and I broke out in a cold sweat. I managed to say, my voice strained. Of course I can. We're family always. Family, she repeated the word, tasting it, then let out a low laugh. Just family, Ethan. How cruel of you, but family is fine. As long as I can have you all to myself, I don't care what you call it. Her intentions were crystal clear, and a shiver of fear went through me. I couldn't tell if she meant what she said or if it was just some kind of delusion. Maybe living so closely together had created an illusion of love for her. What if it was just a trauma bond and she was mistaking dependency for love? If that was the case, she would eventually realize her mistake and leave me. A tiger always returns to the jungle, and a rabbit like me could either become her dinner or stay far, far away. I forced a smile, trying to hide my panic. Of course, we'll always be there for each other. She stared at me, a slow, cold smile spreading across her lips. Ethan, you will be mine. The feeling of being targeted by a predator was unnerving. I mumbled some excuse and retreated to my room. By the time my heart rate finally returned to normal, I was covered in sweat. Chloe, however, was perfectly calm. After she was in bed, she asked, "Do you want to sleep on the bed tonight? The floor is probably damp from the rain." I hesitated for a moment, but then I nodded. There was no other reason. I was attracted to her. Chloe took off her shirt, revealing her pale skin. She leaned against me slightly and asked, Is this okay? You comfortable? Faced with such an ambiguous question, I could only nod without saying anything. As I was drifting off to sleep, I heard a whisper from behind me, as light as a sigh. Ethan, you feel the same way I do, don't you? It's okay. From the day you brought me home, I've belonged to you. I'll wait for you. In the days that followed, we kept our distance. Or rather, I kept my distance from her. It wasn't that I was being conceited. Chloe had simply stopped hiding it. She'd find excuses to touch my hand. Her gaze so intense it felt like she was going to eat me alive. At times like these, I was glad she was in a wheelchair, otherwise I'd be a goner. We managed to get through the next few days without incident. Then one evening when I came home from work, the apartment was pitch black. My phone was dead, so I had to feel my way through the darkness, searching for the light switch. I found it and flipped it a few times, but nothing happened. A voice suddenly spoke out of the darkness, making me jump. The power's out. Stop trying. Then a cool hand took mine. In the faint moonlight filtering through the window, I could just make out Chloe's silhouette. My heart settled a bit as she led me into the bedroom. A few candles were lit in the bedroom, casting a soft, flickering glow. The candlelight softened the usually harsh lines of Chloe's face. She looked at me through the dancing flames, and a gentle warmth seemed to pass between us. I felt a little awkward and tried to look away, but she gently guided my face back, forcing me to meet her intense gaze. Ethan, it's your birthday today. I was surprised. It dawned on me that it was already October. I'd been so busy, I'd completely forgotten. How did you know? I never told you. She smiled softly. I saw it on your driver's license when I was doing your laundry. I don't have any money or anything to give you, so I baked you a cake. I'll go get it. Warmth spread through my chest. Okay. She left with a candle and was gone for a long time. Confused, I felt my way out of the room and nearly tripped over something on the floor. I looked down and saw Chloe sprawled on the floor. Was covered in frosting, and next to her lay the smashed remains of a cake and an extinguished candle. I rushed to help her up. Her eyes were red and brimming with tears. She looked up at me, her voice small. Ethan, I dropped the cake. It's okay. Are you hurt? What do? I ruined your birthday. Hearing her say that, I didn't know whether to be annoyed or amused. She always used this trick to play the victim. How can you ruin a birthday I didn't even remember I was having? As I spoke, I scooped a bit of frosting off her cheek and tasted it. There, I've had my cake and gotten my present. She was taken aback by my gesture, and I could see her blushing, even in the dim moonlight. Wow, what present? I smiled and gently ruffled her hair. You're my gift. The most beautiful miracle fate ever sent me. Chloe's head snapped up, her eyes shining as she looked at me, all her previous fierceness gone. So, you have feelings for me too, don't you? I nodded without a word. So, I'm worthy of being by your side, right? I sighed, murmuring, yes, as I lifted her into my arms. Just then, the lights flickered back on, flooding the room with light and revealing the clear signs that her fall had been deliberate. I looked at her and couldn't help but laugh, gently poking her on the forehead. All right, let's get you cleaned up. She blushed and nodded, looking down. Helping her bathe this time felt different. I'd done it before, but something had changed between us. She was red as a lobster, awkwardly refusing to look at me. It wasn't until I had laid her back on the bed that she finally worked up the courage to take my hand. Seeing her shy, bashful expression, I could only sigh and rest my forehead against hers. Okay, I'm going to go clean up the mess. You can let go now. She refused, tilting her head back to smile up at me. Kiss me. Gave her a strange smile. Chloe, don't push your luck. Chloe looked up with innocent eyes, then leaned in and gave my hand a delicate lick. Ethan, defeated, I leaned down and gently kissed her forehead. There. Now, will You go to physical therapy with me tomorrow? The happiness vanished from her face. She scowled, about to refuse. But I cut her off. Or do you want to be in a wheelchair for our wedding photos? Of course not. Then you'll go to therapy. Fine. The rehabilitation process was long and agonizing. For someone as proud as her, falling over and over in public, struggling to get back up each time, was a special kind of torture. The legs that had once been numb were now a constant source of pain. She often woke up in the middle of the night, kept awake by the pain, and would just stare out the window at the moon. I couldn't stand to see her suffer. If it's too painful, I'd say, we can take a break. But she would just shake her head stubbornly. Ethan, I want to stand. I want to stand next to you as an equal. I want you to be able to rely on me, too. Besides, after all this time of feeling nothing, the pain is a gift. Least it means there's hope. I felt a lump in my throat and leaned my head on her shoulder. Okay, we'll keep going. Thanks to the foundation we built with constant massages and exercises, her recovery was remarkably fast. She went from complete numbness to excruciating pain. And now she could finally take a few slow steps with crutches. The moment she was mobile, she insisted on bringing me lunch at the hospital every day, parading in front of my coworkers like she owned the place. The day her custom crutches arrived, we went and got married. She held our marriage certificate, turning it over and over in her hands, stroking the paper. Okay, you're going to wear a hole in it. It's my first time being married. I'm just curious. I raised an eyebrow and gave her a stern look. What are you planning on having a second one? Never. I only want to spend my life with my Ethan. I wouldn't dare think of anyone else. But the past doesn't just blow away in the wind. Sometimes it's never really past at all. On what seemed like an ordinary day, the hero and heroine of the story showed up at our door. By this point, they had already reached their happy ending. Married and living a peaceful life, they arrived with armfuls of gifts. A handsome couple standing awkwardly at my door. I thought they must have the wrong address. Excuse me, this is my apartment. I squeezed past them to unlock my door, but to my surprise, their eyes lit up when they saw me. Excuse me, the man asked. Do you know a Chloe Vance? What do you want with my wife? Hearing Chloe's name, I immediately became guarded, pulling my hand back from the door and tightening my grip on the key. I knew Chloe's past was complicated, but things had been so quiet lately, I'd started to think we'd left it all behind. I never expected it to show up on our doorstep. I'm her sister. My name is Amelia Vance. The woman's voice was barely a whisper, as if admitting she was Chloe's sister took every ounce of her strength. The moment she said her name, I remembered who she was. The heroine of the original story, the illegitimate half-sister who had ultimately been Chloe's downfall, which meant the man next to her had to be the hero Liam Carter. Another ruthless character, if I remembered correctly. I felt a knot in my stomach, unsure if I should let them in. Before I could decide, the door swung open. Chloe stood there scowling, splashed with water. From deeper in the apartment, I could hear the pitiful of a cat. It looked like she'd been trying to give a bath to the fat stray I brought home yesterday. All you do all day is bring home strays. And in the end, I'm the one who has to take care of them. What are you two here for? Since you're here, don't just stand around. Go do my husband's laundry. Amelia gave Chloe an awkward smile, ignoring her rude comment as she and Liam stepped inside with their gifts. The two of them sat awkwardly on my small sofa. No, please don't trouble yourself. We don't need any oranges. Really, we can get it ourselves. In the end, the hero and heroine each found themselves holding a giant orange, watching as Chloe wrestled with the cat in a wash basin. If you ever bring another stray home, I swear I'm done with you. I heard her from the kitchen and yelled back. If I didn't have a habit of picking up strays, how do you think you ended up here? She just grumbled under her breath and went quiet. Then I heard Amelia murmur in a daze, "Is that really Chloe?" Am I dreaming? Liam looked just as stunned. Maybe. I think so. Probably. When Chloe was finished, she swaggered over, snatched the peeled orange out of Amelia's hand, gave half to me, and ate the other half herself. After finishing it, she tossed an unpeeled orange to Amelia and commanded, "Peel." Amelia started peeling it automatically, only remembering why she was there halfway through. She jolted and stood up. "Right, I came here for a reason. I'm so sorry about your legs, but my mother didn't drive your mother to suicide." Chloe just shrugged. "I know it was that old bastard, our father. He killed your mother, too, didn't he? He just couldn't stand to see either of us happy." Amelia froze, stunned that she already knew the truth. Hearing this, I put a worried hand on Chloe's shoulder. This was a part of her past I knew nothing about. Didn't know how to comfort her, so I just tried to offer what little support I could. She turned and gave me a reassuring smile, patting my hand to let me know she was okay. "Amelia, I don't hate you, and you don't need to feel guilty. The slate between us is too messy to ever be wiped clean." This only seemed to make Amelia feel more guilty. She took out a debit card and said sheepishly, "There's $4 million on here." Before she could finish her sentence, Chloe snatched the card out of her hand. "Great, thanks. I'll take the money. You can keep the sentiment. And while you're at it, you can buy this apartment for me." Liam was speechless. I had to laugh. I grabbed Liam's arm and pulled him out to the balcony to see the cat. "Let's let them sort this out themselves. Come see the kitten." Amelia watched Chloe examine the card and raised an eyebrow. "You've changed the old you would have punched me for trying something like this, thinking I was insulting you." Chloe grunted, pocketed the card, and glanced at our wedding photo on the wall, the one where we were both smiling. "I'm pregnant, and with my legs like this, pride is a luxury I can't afford. It won't feed my husband or my baby." As she spoke, she glanced over at Liam, who was now gently petting the cat, and sneered, "Besides, you're no different." Hearing that, Amelia's expression softened, too. Love is a strange thing, isn't it? It gives you both courage and a weakness. Before they could get any more sentimental, I cut in. "Are you two done? If so, can you get started on dinner? Are you trying to starve me?" All right. Going." After dinner, as they were leaving, I enthusiastically packed them a bunch of homemade side dishes Chloe had made. "Come back and visit any time," Chloe scowled and said. "Our family of 3 is plenty. We don't have room for guests." Equals.